Welcome to Systems of Imperfection. Now here's your hosts, Stu and Dave.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the very first episode of No One is Coming to Save You, which is how you're supposed to say it, not the way Stuart says it. But Stuart Young is here, my co-author for the book. Thank you for being here, Stuart. And Olivia Vick is our first guest on our brand new podcast, all shiny and ready to go. Stuart, do you want to tell them about the book?
All that's required for this new shiny post is our imperfect selves that will make it a little bit more rough on the edges. Yeah, absolutely. So one of the key philosophies of this said book is that, apparently I can't say it, but no one is coming to save you.
You say it with hope. You have to say it with total despair.
I'm an optimist, Dave. I'm an optimist. And really what this comes down to is that we sort of describe ourselves as a system of work, and we try to strive to be better systems so we can better serve ourselves and others. And that's why we're very lucky to have the one and only Olivia Vick here, because Olivia, you are the unsung hero, because you've not only been the most awesome editor for us grammatically, and you've sort of really connected with it on so many levels. We talk about power-ups and and self-discovery. There's so many things that you've helped us with and that you've connected with. So you're a great place to start. And you are also the track chair at the Agile Alliance, where you did your best to herd cats and sort of support us with our voice of doing a talk there. So thank you for being here.
It is my absolute pleasure. And I like to say, no one is coming to save you. As like a motivational, right?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yes.
You gotta save yourself.
Just add a little Gen X, like, suck it up and just get it done thing on the end, and we're all good.
Is that it? Oh, no. I'm millennial,
Well,
I swear.
What if we ever make enough money, I'm going to hire Liam Neeson to say it like he does in the Taken speech, because that's what's in my head whenever I hear it.
Sadly, it's a passion project, and we're certainly not rich yet, Dave, just to remind you. I can show you the spreadsheet later.
Maybe Liam Neeson will do it for like $100.
So there's a lot that we'd like to share with you, and just to kind of enlighten you again, that the core foundation of this is around emotional intelligence. And if any of you aren't familiar with that, it's sort of popularized by Daniel Goleman. And we talk a lot about self-awareness and self-regulation and social awareness and relationship management. And we also have these things called power-ups, which we think you need to invest in, one being personal Kanban. So we're going to explore a little bit about self-discovery and regulation, and then personal Kanban. And if you don't mind me saying, Olivia, would you mind introducing yourself a little bit? And then we'll kind of maybe first explore a bit about how you self-discover and self-regulate. So tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So from a career standpoint, I'm currently a product manager at Cyberstar. We're a cybersecurity software product. And my real passion, though, has always been in like operations. The way people work specifically is just fascinating. I love it. And so, of course, there's a ton of behavioral change, emotional intelligence wrapped up in that. Personally, you can actually see the pictures. I have a partner and a daughter and 2 cats at home that I'm now allergic to. It's great. Great environment.
Another thing we have in common, 2 cats and highly allergic to them.
Yes. It's fast. This is my safe room from them. So I literally have to lock the door, otherwise they open it. And
Wow.
I have a variety of interests. So we talked to Dave about music, but I play volleyball regularly, and crafting. Here you can even see some of this is my cross stitching right over here. Oh my God, how
Wow.
perfect is this background for this podcast?
That is good. And do you know what? You're showing lots of visual things there, other things that are in the book. But there's another superpower. I hope you don't mind me sharing. You've supported me on many. You're more like a life coach. And there's something else that I discovered in the last couple of years, and something that you've supported me with. And that is the superpower of neurodiversity. And I wouldn't mind starting there. So one thing that I'm not one for labels, but one thing that we're both aligned on is we both have been clinically diagnosed with ADHD. I would like to start there, if you don't mind. So when it comes to self-awareness and self-regulation, why does it matter? And how do you cope with ADHD?
Yeah, so late life diagnosis for me, I didn't find out until last year. I was 34 when I found
Really?
out. Honestly, even my therapist, who I've been with for 10 years, was like, Olivia, you don't have ADHD. I don't think so. Because I had developed such like secure coping mechanisms, right? I got
Hmm.
through engineering school, and mainly the coping mechanism is sleep, to be fair.
Yeah.
But as a mom, I have been struggling. And as somebody who touts, right, and knows the logical mechanics of emotional regulation and, emotional intelligence, I was really frustrated with myself for not being able to emotionally regulate. So actually getting the diagnosis like was a lot of people sort of like kind of have a grief around it, like, oh, I could have done XYZ. Hey, I am very fortunate. I made it this far without any assistance, but it was a relief to me, right?
Yeah.
A relief to not have to like recognize that my struggle
Yeah.
to emotionally regulate is actually like literally built into my brain. And getting a little bit of support for that specifically to make me a better
Mm.
mom and to really actually be able to like do some of these things that I can coach others and talk to logically it's freeing.
And so just to kind of give for those people listening in, we can kind of explain a little bit more about these things because, um, me and Dave, when we were creating the book, we both shared the fact that we'd both had therapy, and we're not saying that
Mhm.
everybody needs to go to that depths of extremity
Yes,
to
they
do
do.
therapy. Yeah, well, I agree, but uh,
But if you get a bad therapist, it can do
It's so
a
well,
true.
lot of damage very quickly.
There, there is that. So I think that the superpower of having, for me, and we've talked about this, ADHD is the superpower of hyperfocus and the things that you get from it. But I think that the interesting thing is, you mentioned this diagnosis being something that happened as an adult, so you've already created hacks, and that's something
Mhm.
that me and Dave resonate with. Is
Yeah.
the life hacks that you've created and the regulation, we've mentioned that we've bounced this word regulation around a bit. What regulation is really about is how have you, as a mother, as you mentioned, the difficulties in regulating, in being able to work, be a good mum, and be of service to yourself and others is super important. And that regulation to Dave is meditation, and to me is running. What kind of regulation do you do, Olivia, so that you can be the best version of yourself?
I do. I have two things. One is meditation, developing the practice of being able to ground yourself and like keep in touch with your awareness. But that's like the practice that's like when you go to the gym to work out. And so throughout life, you're gonna need to lift heavy suitcases, right? That's not at the gym, right? I'm not meditating at that point, but I've exercised that muscle. So really my approach to regulation is creating reminders to help me be intentional and ground in my awareness across the board.
Awesome.
A really key is social media apps, right? So sure, I have timers. Timers are easy. Most people can set them. What I additionally do is I don't have the app icons easily available on my phone. So it makes me go through some steps to get to them. And those steps trigger hey, why am I doing this right now? Is this appropriate for me? Or is it, maybe trying to cure something else? And so really just helps me set that intention. I have like several examples of doing that throughout, but that's probably the most accessible one for folks.
The fact that you're even asking that question, like, is this something I need to do? Like that you're aware to even think about it is awesome.
Yeah.
Because I think
Yeah.
most people, it doesn't even occur to them, like, oh, my phone's in my hand again. I wonder why.
Right.
Because I had
Well,
3 seconds where I was idle and I can't handle that.
yeah. Right? I have a smartwatch, but I only get the emergency messages to my smartwatch. I can leave my phone anywhere in the house and I can be safe in knowing that whatever I need will alert me, right? So that
Yeah.
actually lets me put the phone away. And as you can imagine, or maybe not, my current therapy is working on how the fact that I'm overthinking things.
I am very in touch with that one.
Yeah.
I mean, I say that I wake up with anxiety. Dave seems to say that he picks anxiety up throughout the day, but
Yeah.
my alarm clock is anxiety, and that isn't a great place to be. But that I'm never late, you know.
Yeah. I
Um,
used to
uh,
be like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the thing. But again, so it kind of bounces off each other. This you're self aware about what you need to do to regulate, and that's so. I think that for me, the neurodiversity is almost accelerated that self awareness that you've
Mm.
accomplished. And the quote from Simon Sinek, who was also who also diagnosed as an adult, was it already created hacks. And I love this quote. I use it on so many calls, and I use it whenever I'm training, is take strengths and weakness off the table and consider attributes and characteristics. And that really resonates with me. So I think that's what we're talking about, is how it's not Dave, the trainer, or Olivia, the product manager. It's Olivia, who is Olivia. And how do you rock up and be Olivia as the best in the best way you can be?
Well, can I
In the
add one
moment.
thing? Because it goes, when you were just saying it, what connected for me was it goes all the way back to the art of war, which I'm a big fan of. Sometimes you're strong and sometimes you're weak, but that's always just in relationship to other stuff. And as long as you know where you are and the state that you're in, you can use that to your advantage. So a lot of people, like you said, might take getting diagnosed as like a point of like sadness or whatever, but just knowing that you can leverage it and use it in a lot of different ways. So there's self-regulation, but also understanding what's going on around you and your position within that system and how those things can come together to create the outcome you're looking for.
I I went through I like up until December of last year, my big thing was suffering. Like I hate suffering. I'm good with pain. Pain is like that initial moment feeling and like it's acceptable, right? But me not being able to tolerate a situation for a long period of time, like that's me suffering. And I was with my therapist. And I'm like, how do I not suffer anymore? And she was like, well, Olivia, the opposite of suffering is acceptance.
Wow.
So accepting, hey, this is the world, and turning that inward, Dave, to your point of, hey, I accept. I accept that like this is my best in this moment, or I accept that these are my weaknesses for now. If I'm sprinkling in a little bit of dialectical behavioral therapy, um, these are my strengths. You know, like accepting without judgment. I think is the unlock that I've been exploring more and more for the past couple of years,
Yeah.
really.
So that may be an opportunity. We can bounce back to this, but I think that's a nice segue. So what some of the power-ups that we design, and power-ups for us are those things that we think will support you in your personal professional life, such as dealing with change, kind of connects well nicely with acceptance. But also is personal Kanban. Dave, do you want to talk a bit more about that?
Sure. I'll try to couch it in a way that leads towards the conversation we're going to try to have. So personal Kanban it was invented by Jim Benson and Tony Maria, and it is a way of managing the stuff you have to do. It's a way of visualizing your work, limiting your work in process. I would say learning from the things that you're doing is one of the most important parts. A lot of people like me come to it just because you're trying to figure out a better way to get a handle on your to-do list, all the stuff you have to do throughout the day. And it applies a lot of the practices of Kanban to how you manage your own work. And it is a great place to get started, to understand all the things you have on your plate, how you want to organize them, how you can limit the number of things you're trying to do at once. But I think when you stick with it, it kind of gets into the area that we focus on in the book, which is you start to learn more about yourself as a system, and you learn how to run experiments to test different things out so that you can optimize the way that you approach the things you're doing so you can show up and be of service to other people. And so that's kind of where we're going to kind of, I think, start out with Olivia, is like experiments that you've run, some of the things you've learned. The one thing I just want to add before we get into it, there's a person that I took a class with who has a Post-it on her board, her Kanban board, that says, "Dear Kanban, how are you lying to me?" And I think that, like, that opened this whole world to me, where when I look at my board, it's like I'm having a conversation with my work. I'm not just moving cards. I'm like, okay, why are you still in that column? You've been in there a really long time, and the card's looking back at me going, I'm here because you suck and you haven't done anything about me yet. And you get into these ways of like trying to figure out, why is that there? What am I going to do about that? What's causing that? And it's like that whole root cause thing that helps you understand yourself better, and that helps you be better when you show up for other people. So
I mean, I think so you mentioned I was so fortunate to be able to preview your book, and personal Kanban was one of the things where I was like, like I should experiment with this. So I did, right? I really like to have things kind of portable. And so my very first like Kanban, and I like to draw a lot, was actually like threefold. So here's my starting point, right? So you have the traditional like doing and done, but rather than just like a broad to do, I made a prioritization matrix, right? And I made it based on joy versus like, man, this is not going to give me joy, right? And hey, is it urgent, or is this something I can wait on? And
so it's sort of Eisenhower-y a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and so I attended your talk then, right? Even after reading the book, it was actually that quote that you just mentioned, or what is my Kanban trying to tell me? What is the conversation my Kanban's trying to have? And I was reflecting in that moment in your session at the Agile 2025 conference. And I was like, oh, all these Post-its are all on the turtle side, right? They're all that I don't have any sense of urgency. Talk about signals that you might have ADHD, right? I don't have the motivation because it's not urgent. It's not urgent. It's not there. So immediately I was like, how do I fix that? Right.
Well, do you have to fix it?
Or do I have to fix it? Ooh, two great questions. So what I did was I looked like, what are the things over in this longer term, and why are they in the longer term? And again, combined with that knowledge of, I really do think it's important, not just to have the awareness that like I have, or I am neurodivergent, or I have ADHD, but knowing some of the tendencies and how it manifests gives you the unlocks, right? So it helps me recognize, oh, all of these things that are in this long thing are because they're really big. If I break them up into smaller chunks, is that helpful? So I now have a 3-page spread. Okay, here's the new first page where a couple of things. One, I'm waiting because there are plenty of things right now. It's schedule window cleaning. Yes, this is a to-do list thing. I know I need to do it, but I'm not doing it till spring because we got fresh vegetables and I don't want them to get all the runoff. Hey, I know I need to do that. I don't want to forget it. Anxiety says goodbye because I have been waiting, right? But then I created this breakdown section, right? So I have like that big thing that used to be a big Post-it hanging out in the long-term side. And I created myself some mini steps. Okay, like what are the steps to do that, and break it down.
Oh, wow.
And then,
okay.
So then I just take one step at a time to prioritize. And this is where I haven't done color coding yet or anything like that, but you can see there's a little bit more balance. And I still have that same prioritization matrix, and I still have like the doing and the done. I also have a plan, because I think one of the keys, right, is
cool.
making sure you're limiting your whip.
Yeah.
But if I know that this is coming up and it's a scheduled time, again, it's that relief. Hey, I don't have to worry about it. I have it on my list. I will return to it. In this case right now, I got to buy birthday presents for 3 different girls' birthday parties, and I know I'm doing it on Saturday. So it kind of helps me clear up for what I'm going to, like, what can I be doing? So reinforcing the whip without necessarily leaving things go. But you mentioned, prior to starting the podcast, Dave's giving me a peek at like what he's doing. And really like I'm, a couple steps behind you in your Kanban journey, which is great. My next step, I was already reflecting and mentioning, hey, I was thinking about color coding in terms of learning or joy. Like, hey, what am I going to learn for this? Do I need to reflect on this so that my done isn't just like a smorgasbord? It can help me a little categorize and reflect a little bit better. So yeah, that's going to be my next iteration. And as you can tell, I'm
Can I ask you a question about joy?
Yeah.
So do you think of the joy, when I started to go down that route, one of the things that I ended up with is there's stuff that the joy is in the anticipation of the thing. There's stuff that the joy is in the doing of the thing. And then there's other stuff like the cat litter that the joy is in, thank God that's freaking done. Like there's
Ooh,
people you have to talk to on the phone that you do the call just so that you can be done with the call for like 2 weeks.
yeah.
Stuff like that. So where do you like where's the point in time at which you kind of measure the joy? Or is it all
Yeah.
meshed together?
So I specifically focus on the act of doing it.
Okay.
When it comes to, and it kind of depends on what kind of activity it is, right? Most of my creative pursuits or something like that, it's like the act of doing it. That's what's bringing me joy. But there are some things where it's like, hey, this needs to be done. I'm gonna enjoy when it's done. But again, those are more of the optional things. So
Okay.
so I would frame them as, hey, do I need to do this or do I not actually need? It's just like an optional, right? An example right now is like the cushions on my like dining room chairs need to be reupholstered, right? That's something that I can do, and it's something that I will enjoy once it's done, and it does require a little creativity.
Mhm.
Um, and so, that one is on my joy list. But if it's something like, let me look at my non-joy. Oh yeah, scheduling. You mentioned scheduling. Scheduling or putting stuff up, cleaning my indoor windows. Like there's a sense of accomplishment. So maybe it's the like activation energy almost of
Okay.
like, yeah, yeah.
Cool.
So if you sort of wrap this up, so again, not the whole thing, but just the kind of looking at Kanban and the learnings, we've jumped to the personal Kanban and how you manage your time or how you manage the things that spark joy. We've also talked about self-awareness and we've talked about regulation. So for anyone listening in, do you think that this skill, the investment of time in understanding how to manage your time effectively, do you think it's quite universal and you can see how it would support you with your personal and professional work?
I mean, that's a no-brainer. Yes. And here's the great thing about your book is immediately my mind was like, well, as long as you go into it with the right mindset. And I think that's what your book really accomplishes is it gives you tips on the mindset you're approaching this time and work management with, right? An example would be, I think I have a friend who's an artist, like just a purely creative person. And she's talking to me and she's like, oh, Olivia, I've just been so focused on my garden and I go out there and I do everything. And I know there's these other projects, aka painting, right, that I should be doing. And I was like, put a pin in it, should be. What does should actually mean? Do you have to do it? Right? Like, is
Yeah.
it something that like is commissioned and you have a due date? Or are you just guilting yourself because you think of yourself in one
Well,
way, but that's not actually the case?
I think
Um,
that's really important because like there's joy, but there's also a negative weight that comes with not doing some stuff or doing some stuff.
Mhm.
And the longer like the painting sits, the more strength it has,
mhm.
the more taxing it can become.
Well, and there's two things that come to mind because I was reflecting on just this earlier today. One is, and I think it was Stephen King, but I think he also had a quote about like reading helping your writing, but like the only way to get better at writing is writing. So I think a lot of us think like, oh, there's some divine inspiration,
I think for him it
or
was
like,
just bags of
oh.
Coke.
Yeah, inspiration comes in all forms. Yeah, but yeah, people think, oh, I'm just waiting for the creativity bug to hit. And it's like, no, sometimes you have to smash down the door
Yeah.
and to get to the point where you think you should be or where you want to be. Um, and now I'm gonna forget my second point because it's time for me to take my stimulant. But um,
Self-regulation.
so, right, it has been incredibly helpful. Um,
Yeah.
so the second piece is um, Yoda. Do or do not. There is no try. If I go back to acceptance, I either need to like look at it and say, you know what? I'm either going to carve out time and do it, or I really need to grieve, like let it go and grieve. And like
Yeah.
that's okay and accept it. So
Uh,
that's the other thing around
That's
like,
a
hey,
hard thing to learn to do. I've been struggling with that for 20 years. My wife has never had a problem with it. She just picks a thing and does it. She doesn't care about anything else.
I mean, I have a closet full in this room of all of the like, well, I'll save this because this could be used for XYZ crafts.
There you
Luckily,
go.
I have the space just to push it in a closet.
So I want to add one thing about why this stuff is important. When the very first thing that I learned from personal combat, I had a coach, Brian Bizzuto, and he had me do some activities that showed me that when I planned my day, I planned all the work, like all the stuff that was like the grinding it out stuff, and I saved all the self-maintenance stuff like meditation, playing my guitar, things like that for late at night, which meant I almost never got to those things, and when I did, there wasn't enough of me left to get any value out of it. And what I learned was that if I spread those things throughout the course of the day, I'm able to get a lot more done throughout the course of the day because I'm not taking breaks. I'm still doing stuff, but I'm doing stuff that fuels me instead of depletes me. And I think
That
if anybody's like bristling at the idea of like joy, it's work. I don't need joy. Well, you do actually, because it's like food.
yeah.
It's important.
I love this so much, and I think you actually might have mentioned a little bit about this in your book because it's ringing some bells. But two things that I've changed recently. One is I was getting really like I can very easily be convinced of like the urgency at work, right? So my shoulders come up, and I'm like, ooh, and I'm feeling the urgency. So I actually forced myself to meditate. And for me, it was focusing on putting things into perspective. Like work
Mhm.
is not life. I, I mean, I know like we like to have importance because there's motivation in that sense. But like if the thing doesn't got done today, like most careers, you're going to be okay. So
Yeah.
I forced myself to take that 10 minutes before starting. And the second one actually deals with insulin. So more recent studies have shown they're specifically done on men because we are who we are. But it was the most effective exercise you could do if you're at like a sit at your desk type of environment jobs is 10 squats every 45 minutes. They tested that against
Wow.
taking a 5-minute walk, and they tested against taking one
Mm.
30-minute walk. And I've actually heard similar advice. I have a little bit of just a tad bit of insulin resistance. And so like glucose management and that sort of thing is
Yeah.
really important. It's because a lot of like the processing for insulin is in your muscles. And so activating like one of your biggest muscle groups by doing just 10 squats.
I love that.
So
I
yeah,
love
me and
that.
my coworkers now have a Slack channel.
I'm going to
Every
try that.
hour.
I'm going to try
I'm
that.
gonna.
That's
I'm
awesome. And I
standing.
just got one of these just to track my blood sugar, just to try to learn more about it.
There's a lot
Yeah.
to be said
Well, let me
about
know.
system.
Yeah.
The impulsivity that you talk about again. That's something that I'm known for doing, and I think that
No.
the impulsivity, the energy, regulating your energy levels. I'm quite a wide disposition, as you both know, and
Mhm.
and it's also you can get a level of emotional dysregulation as well, and that comes with me being me. And I think that working virtually, it's even harder to kind of manage a lot of those behaviors. So a lot of the stuff that we've talked about, to some people listening in, they might think they're just jumping all over the shop, but it all interconnects your self-awareness, how you regulate, how you're, and what you say about like the things that the sense of urgency, and how
Yeah.
you can manage that by knowing more about yourself as a system, and how you manage your time effectively and learn. Because you're right, I always joke that my worry box will fill up straight away, and I have to remind myself in that moment that is this problem life and death? Because I sometimes feel like I'm in constant fight or flight. And it's a good experiment just
Yeah.
to, for those
Yeah.
to listen in. I didn't get much sleep last night, and I've had a very busy day. So, it's all of the little things that we know, we're aware of how we are, what energy levels we need. So just sort of on that focus of bouncing around, we in the book we talk about the things that we think are quite universal, such as learning how to focus, something squirrel I struggle with sometimes. Hyperfocus is actually very good with ADHD, but sometimes if you've got lots of things going on, it could be the opposite. So interesting to see how
Mm.
you and Dave talk about personal Kanban. We talk about being your authentic self and critical thinking. To put you on the spot, what other things do you do, Olivia? That like, I don't know, what universal things do you think help you in your day to day life?
Oh,
Yeah.
I
Throw
do
that
think
at
it
you.
helps. Yeah, well, okay. So I mentioned this book, and I have a copy here. It's one of like my favorite books. It was recommended to me by a mentor The Untethered Soul by Michael A. Singer. And you can
Oh,
see I'm only halfway through. Oh, maybe you can't see because the lighting in here is subpar. I'm only halfway through and I've been reading this book for like 5 years. I give a
Wow.
talk. My talk at the 2024 conference was around untethering, but it's so deep, right? And so a few key things that you mentioned there. One is the sense of urgency, but also, hey, what do you do for your outer, right? Like conditioning your environment to help create this
oh, that's good.
regulation. And what
Yeah.
the chapter I literally stopped at because I really didn't like it. I wasn't ready for it. I'm just now going into it in therapy actually. Was it basically makes the point that like for true growth, you can't continue avoiding the pain and altering your environment so that you don't have to experience the pain is just avoiding the pain. So essentially it's saying, hey, you got to do the inner work so that you can handle any situation versus uh versus it's almost versus like self-awareness of like I'm going to choose this versus that. Um I'm gonna for me the key moments right now are like going into like parenting situations where there are like a lot of kids, a lot of other parents, and like me and my child, and like it puts my whole system on high alert, like hunter mode.
Yeah.
And like I can't just avoid that environment, right? Like if I want to be present for my daughter or whatever I value, I can't just avoid that. So I'm doing the inner work right now of it's so right now actually it's the first time I've done internal family systems, which is systems thinking, and it's kind of very much like Inside Out if you've seen that movie, where you kind of identify the different parts you have operating and how
Love
they're
that.
interacting with each other, and
Yeah.
dig a little bit deeper. um and a lot of times it's coupled with some like trauma therapy, because a lot of times the way it gets out of whack is from some trauma. But yeah, it's been really helpful. And my one of my doctors today was like, it's like when you first take off the knee brace and you're still weak, but you need to exercise the muscle in order to heal. Otherwise, you will maintain that injury forever. So that's the thing that I'm working on right now. The concept of untethering is the fact that like you need to sit in your awareness without judgment to be able to respond authentically to the situation. Because if you're not in your awareness, then you're leaning on your perception. With ADHD, that comes rejection sensitivity dysphoria, which is going to skew everything. And you're not going to be able to actually interact with people in a way that's more grounded in like a shared experience, authenticity.
Do you,
I knew
Should I step
that
off a soapbox right now? Sorry.
yeah, no, I knew that when Dave and me were like, look, what now that we've got the book done, what are we going to do now, and what we're going to do next? And we thought, well, look, it would be really good to speak to people about how they see themselves as a system and how they show up. And I knew that this first interview with you would be good, but it was better than I could ever have imagined. And you are such a strong advocate for emotional awareness and emotional intelligence, and understanding how you can best support yourself to support others. So I really can't thank you enough. It's been brilliant.
I'm psyched to be here. Sorry, Dave, you were saying something. And I was like,
I
okay,
have a
stop,
question.
Olivia.
Yeah, when
Yeah.
you're kind of stuck in the perception thing, are you able to become aware of the fact that you're in a perception, like that the story that you're telling yourself is the story that you're telling yourself? It's not necessarily what's actually happening. And if you can get to that, does that help at all?
It really does help. And where I'm stuck and why I'm sort of engaging in this new therapy is I still feel the physical responses. So like mentally, I'm like,
Yeah.
ooh, this is what's happening. But physically, I'm like,
Oh yeah.
tensing, or I
Yeah.
feel like, hard to breathe or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
and sometimes then that that fuels the cycle. So
I wonder if I mean I have that too. I always the physical stuff. I try to use it as fuel. Like I don't know if that. I mean, maybe that does go away for some people. I don't know.
I think it's like a lot of times it's like, oh, you need to do some aerobic exercise, right? Like you need to run or like get your
Something.
heart rate up
Yeah.
and do that. And I think that is like a really good way to self-regulate and manage in those moments. And I think that sometimes that's not accessible or possible. Or like I think we trick ourselves into thinking it's not. I was for a long time, it was like all or nothing, right? So I would like feel the feelings and be like, oh, I'm doing this. I need to disengage. And I would just like peace out for the full day. Did I need the full day?
Yeah.
No, I probably needed 20 minutes or,
Yeah.
something like that. So,
You've
that's
you've already done this by far with all your advice. You've by far given so much advice. But just to wrap this up, because it's been
Wait,
fun.
I'm not done.
Oh, you're
I
not.
know.
No.
Oh, cool. Cool.
I want to ask a question about the meditation thing. So you
Oh.
said that was you had to force yourself to do it, and especially for people that are starting, like even 5 minutes is like the longest 5 minutes of their life. It's really, really
Yep.
difficult. And for me, I sit for a half an hour every day, and it's the hardest half hour of the whole day, but it's also the most important half hour of the whole day. Is that an activity that you would like put in the joy column or in the not?
Oh,
Because you said you have to
100%.
force yourself to do it. It's hard.
So, the trick that I have is, aside from the personal Kanban, every night, before bed, I make a to-do list of what I'm gonna do with my morning time before I start work.
Okay.
Because here's the trend with mornings. I'm not a fan of morning routine because a lot of times then you get into a grind and you're not being as like intentional about it. I know that's a secret for a lot of people, and I think there's a structure to it that I adhere to, but it's not necessarily a routine. And so a lot of times it's really easy to wake up and be like, I'm not feeling it. I'm just gonna like read while my daughter eats breakfast, or basically like get myself into a high inertia state.
Yeah.
And so what I do is it's literally like shower if I need to shower, right? It's brush my teeth. But meditate is always on there, and it's like a commitment that I make to myself at
Which is
the end
not
of the
easy if you're a
day.
mom of a small child.
Oh my God, no! And here, like if she does not get to wake me up, she is pissed. So, and I know this is one of those things where like Olivia, be a parent, make her get used to you waking up before her, or wake up her dad. But like, hey, I only got her for so long. So yeah, it's meditate is always on my list. And then I always find like one other thing to do within that I is either off my Kanban or like would bring me joy. So right now it's making biscuits weekly. I make my homemade biscuits. I
Wow.
freeze the dough. And so that every morning I have an oven fresh biscuit for breakfast. And right?
That's nice.
Yeah. And I will really quickly plug the app that I use. I know there's Calm, there's Headspace, and I've used both of those and they're fine, but they are behind paid subscriptions. So just like to like let people know, this was actually one that my new therapist recommended. It's just called Insight Timer.
Oh, wow. You're on there too. I didn't know that. I'll have
Yeah.
to find you.
Yeah, it's so like there's
bunch of us
so
on
much
there.
free, really good, like Tara Brach, good content, right?
And the people that put stuff up there, I find it's also really good for my self-esteem to go watch some of their live streams.
Yeah. It's so yeah, highly recommend Insight Timer. Like it's most of the content is free that I found, and they do have like challenges, or they do have some things to like encourage you to keep the streak going or something. But that veers maybe a little bit too much into like the commitment for me right now.
Cool.
Yeah.
So
But
I
know
think we should do more of these too. I know Stuart wanted to wrap
well, I
us
mean,
up.
that's
but-
what
I was going to suggest. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think you need to be with us whilst we interview others. And as I say, I wanted to kind of converge with, but you've already done it so on so many levels. But if people, as a kind of a call to action for people, if people are facing a new job or they're facing unprecedented change, they're hit, as you say, they may be facing a trauma, whether it be personal life or work. They could be stressed because they're out of work or they're overworked. What would be, your of all the things you've said, what kind of advice would you give them?
Ooh. Okay, so I have two pieces. This is actually, if I ever become a keynote speaker, these are the two pieces of my keynote, just so you guys know. The first is untethering, but what that really means is I think a lot of the stress or perceived judgment that we have in whatever situations that we have, And I've done this with mentoring circles, especially with communication. I have people join this communication mentoring circle. They come and they say, I'm not sounding smart enough, or I'm not, whatever. I'm like, so my advice or the coaching that I give to start the path to untethering is, when you're in the interaction, I want you to like float above your physical self. Now, this is not depersonalization. That's a separate issue. So, please beware, but, float above yourself and observe, actually watch the people, treat it as an experiment. Look explicitly for signals that you are not either, sounding like an expert or whatever your fear is. It's a kind of cognitive behavioral therapy, but a little bit more in the moment. And that first step, just go into that interaction and be a higher self. Be a higher self just for that interaction. And I will bet you 99% of the time, you're going to learn, oh, there actually are no signals that this is happening, especially within the
Wow.
interaction.
Wow.
That's
So
interesting.
that's my first one. That's the first step towards untethering. The second part, which I'm kind of putting together right now, is really taking agency. I think a lot of the stress in our lives comes because we feel like we're passengers. I referenced it earlier, do or do not. There is no try. There's a lot of ways that I frame it as like wait for permission. Hey, I'm waiting for the right time. I'm waiting to make more time. I'm waiting for this person to say so, X, Y, Z. And that gives you this perception that like you don't have a choice. And how fun does that feel? Right. So taking agency, it's scary because it implies accountability, right? You got to stand up for whatever you're taking agency with, but it also is empowering. And it gives you that level of acceptance, essentially, that, I'm learning. So those are my two steps.
There's
That
so
was
much
great.
to take away from all of this. You reminded me as well of something another thing that people might want to go and look into, which is the SCARF model by David Brock, which is based on those interactions or that moment of with others. Sometimes you can leave feeling threatened or rewarded in that sort of fight or flight, and of course some of that is down to the behaviors of others and whether they're in that adult ego state or parent ego state, whatever it may be. But there's a lot on you as well. And I'll take away some of that as well. That self-responsibility, again, that you can't blame external factors on how you're feeling. You need to know how best to internalize that and sense. So I'll take away something from that. So thank you very much.
Well, so I know we're wrapping this up. So those are my two guests. And the only thing I would say further is three things, probably. I don't know. I very much appreciate both of you and your book. I'm mentioning the book in a second. That is my last thing that I will wrap up on because I know the game. I very much appreciate this. I would love to be back for whatever. My joke was going to be like, once you figure this out, I'll be back for the 100th episode. Okay.
Good.
With Liam Neeson as guest, if you could.
He's there. He'll say it right,
but
wouldn't he?
No,
He'd say, "No one is coming to save you."
exactly.
Yes.
You're going to get
Yes.
taken. No one is coming to save you. Exactly.
So take control. So yes. When I first got the email, I think it was from Chris Merman. Hey, Dave and Stu, they have this book, they have this session they want to do, and I read the title and I was like, Career Power Up. And I was like, and I just the only remaining criticism I have is that like these are life power-ups, right? Like, yes, they will help you in your career, but this book is so
Awesome.
much more than the next, hey, here are the 5 skills you need in the workplace this year. Like it is significant, and it is similar to this book I'm reading now. You could read a chapter and need to work on that for 6 months before moving on to the next. So it's fantastic.
It's
and
awesome.
Thank you.
I can't wait for my signed copy.
And you've just
Yeah,
realized
I can't wait for those either, Stuart.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm
So we
trying.
can put that on the president and the tariffs. Yeah.
Yes. And you will get your book. You will get your book. It is on its way slowly. But there we go. And thank you very, very much. Thank you. You have been an
Olivia.
absolute legend. Much appreciated.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful
Great
rest of your
first
day.
episode.